This is Ed again in San Diego, and that's the beautiful Coronado Bridge right behind us. Summertime here in Southern California. We were in Palm Desert for a couple of days with good friends celebrating St. Patty's Day, and I became Eddie O'Cohen wearing green. And and it was 110 out there, which is too hot too soon. And back here in San Diego, it was just about 90. Yeah. But it cooled off last night and the fog came in from the ocean right here. Couldn't see the tall Hyatts right across the street here. They're white out totally, but now it's sunny, clearing up, no fog. So life goes on, right, Ron?
Life goes on. That's all good. We're cooler, much cooler than that on the east side of the world. We're on the East Coast for your listeners. You're in California. We are in Maryland.
Yeah, well, this is the second cup of coffee it's needed today.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the wars. Where are they? Well, they seem to be everywhere. And this is really bad news. And so, what's the implication for employers? Ron, you and Marty have perfected the idea ahead of its time, the Cooper culture. And I'd like to ask you to review some of those beliefs and practices that you've already put into place. I think our audience out there of business people, not only in the US, but everywhere else, mostly US, but we do reach Asia Pacific and Latin America, and of course, Europe and Africa, and now India more than ever. I'm going to read this. Uh, the implications for employers of what's happening right now, anti-Semitism, anti-anything that seems to be in vogue, anti-power. The question here, geopolitical risks impacting global business and global talent development. Why business leaders must prepare for a more unstable world. Ron Cooper, the Cooper
It,
culture.
Ed, this is a very appropriate topic, and I think you would agree with to our listeners that I am going to make statements. I do not intend for them to be political. You don't have to agree with me politically, ideologically, but yes, we as leaders in our companies, in our families, need to be aware of the impact of global uh, environment, the global events that could have an impact on those within our sphere of influence. Particularly, there is uh, a war, there's a conflict, whatever term you want to use, with Israel involved in NATO to some degree, Iran. The United States is the instigator in NATO. Is NATO going to be involved? Will they not be involved? Even though we are not directly impacted by ordnance and aircraft overflights and so forth, our employers, our family members might have people who are directly involved with the conflict that is occurring right now. Israel, Iran, we're involved. We as leaders need to be very acutely aware of the impact that this could have and likely will be having on the company, the revenue. Obviously, in the United States, we are feeling the impact of oil prices. We're feeling the impact of the stock market. And it is going to have an impact in will it be long term or short term? That is a matter of personal opinion. I am of the belief it will be short term. However, you would define maybe another 6 weeks, eight at the outset, my opinion. But we have to, and we will necessarily have to endure that amount of time. Ed and Ken, those are just some of my beliefs. And again, I'm not here to make a political statement. You don't need to agree with me ideologically, but I will say that in the context of critical thinking, we in the military, we as effective leaders, must be very effective critical thinkers. And what I mean by that is we know what's happening in the moment, but we also need to project ahead as far as we can the potential impacts with the families within our company as we are mission centric oriented. Ed, that's kind of a long answer to your question, but that's the backdrop of what Marty and I and the Cooper culture represent.
Ken Lloyd, Dr. Ken Lloyd. Um, I'd like you to address, pardon me, I have to get the notes. I scribbled all these notes in the last half hour where I came across all this stuff going on. Um, Geopolitical impact on global business talent development, global company culture, its role during this time. How do geopolitical risk tensions impact managing talent right now? Ken, can you bring us some smarts?
Let me make a phone call or two. Looking at what's happened, in our world, there's been so much divisiveness, even before this war in Iran. People are divided, so divided politically, they're so divided economically. We look at what's happening within America and this horrible disagreement we have one end of the political spectrum to the next, all this negativity. And then we add not only the dreadful war in Ukraine, but now in the Middle East. I think a lot of employees are feeling kind of drained. And just as Ron said, the impact on the economy, the impact on their lives, the cost now of gasoline and how that's impacting the cost of everything else. I think we have a lot of employees who are very distressed. I think it's going to make it difficult for a lot of them in focusing fully on their work, while at the same time recognizing that there are a lot of layoffs going on, in part because of AI and now in part because of issues related to the economy. I think it's a very, very difficult time psychologically, just across not just America, but around the world. Where are we going? What's happening? I hope that Ron is correct, that this war in Iran will be a short one, and that somehow we'll get back onto a path of goodness and kindness and peace and democracy. The comments that are coming out across the spectrum on various news channels are so divisive and divided. We're in a very tricky time. So I think it's incumbent upon us as managers. We know that millennials and Gen Z are interested in organizations, among other things, that focus on their growth and their development, but also on their mental health. And I think we have to try to be very aware of what's going on with our team in that area. These are tough times mentally for a lot of our employees. I think as managers, as coaches, we want to be aware of that and sensitive to that, give employees a chance to vent and try to work with them to help them through these very difficult times.
Ron,
Yeah,
how close,
yeah.
if I may just ask, just as a bridge from that, and then I'll
Sure.
stop talking, I promise. Ron, how close are we? And you could discard this question if you don't want to answer it. How close are we as a nation to reinstituting the military draft?
Oh, I don't think we're close at all.
Good.
Draft. I think we have gone through that experience, that forced involvement. I'll use that term for draft. Forced involvement with the military has not turned out real well. Right now, we have voluntary conscription, voluntary enrollment in the military with record numbers. And we have people who have pride in our country and will do whatever is necessary to defend our country. I don't think there is any chance that we'll go back to a draft, any form of conscription. That's my hope and opinion. But I want to address Ken's statement of mental health. And I want to make a statement, and I certainly don't expect everyone to agree with it. There are statements that Iran is the number one state for creating terrorists. You may or may not believe that, but you come down on one side or the other on that. And if you do believe that is a possibility, that is a credible statement, then I would ask you, do you believe there is a possibility Iran could use nuclear energy to develop a weapon? And then goes further, do you think Iran could possibly use that weapon not only against Israel, who is much closer, but possibly even against the United States? And if you believe that is a possibility, then what will we do to persuade? What will we do to keep Iran from developing that nuclear capability, which could be a threat to not only Israel, one of our closest allies, but to the United States, but then also the NATO nations? Our president, whether you agree with him or not, has made a statement that we believe that Iran was a threat. And that is why we're doing what we're doing. Can we keep Iran from producing a nuclear weapon? President Trump has said we want complete surrender. Can that happen? Yet to be seen. But I believe in our military that we have strategic targets. We know exactly how to go in and execute. That's mission execution. I can tell you, having been in the cockpit in the situations exactly like this, we know exactly what we're doing. We know exactly what our mission is, and we are confident we in the military will achieve our objectives. Now, not everyone's will agree with what I just said, but Ken and Ed, those are things I know are impacting some employees and family members.
I support 100% of what you just said. Ken?
Certainly, we were facing a very different and dangerous kind of situation. And I take the position that there's so much that we don't know about what's really going on. And my hope and prayer is that those who are making the key decisions know a lot. I would assume they know a lot more than we do. We're reading varied opinions and so-called analyses. Look, we're in a dangerous world. A decision was made, and my dad had an expression. His expression was, person's at a bar and he's asking for a drink, and he wants it on a tab, and so the bartender asks the owner, "What do I do?" And the question is, has he had the drink? He's had the drink, then you extend him the credit. In this case, this is happening now. We've had the drink. So now, hopefully, things will prevail just as Ron has indicated. I certainly value Ron's judgment, having sat in the cockpit and served this country so well for so many years in the military. So I think his insights and inputs are very important for all of us to listen to and understand. He brings a lot more expertise than a lot of people that are out there talking about this on both sides of the issue. So I just thank Ron for his insights on this.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. One of the current situations in being right now is the question, did our administration, President Trump and those on his cabinet, think ahead about the Strait of Hormuz and what is required to keep that open? Or did our administration get caught by surprise? I pretty obviously was not in the planning room when the administration, and here's how I hope things would happen. President Trump said military, I authorize you to plan and execute. I can almost guarantee you the military, through critical thinking, thought through everything, the strategic targets and the what if analyses. What if the Iran were to attempt to block oil coming through the Strait of Hormuz? I just choose to believe the military thought through all of this. Is it possible the Trump administration, someone did not have the commensurate critical thinking that the military has? Certainly that's possible. But I'm going to believe that we in the military have thought through everything. We know exactly how we're going to execute should various things happen. That is all a matter of critical thinking. And we in the military know exactly how we're going to execute. Now, we're under civilian control. President Trump and your administration, will you authorize us to execute, us in the military to execute? Again, I'm on a bit of a diatribe, but I think that I just feel very confident the military has thought through all of this. Maybe the civilian administration did not think through all of this as critically as the military has, but I'm just choosing to believe that there's nothing that's happening nor will happen that the military has not already thought through. I would hope that I can give your listeners that amount of confidence in the military.
So the issue becomes ground troops in order to secure Carg Island, and it's almost like the U.S. has to go in, and because they can't keep bombing that sensitive area there. Everything is so close. Everything is so small. Uh, I'm very active on YouTube because of the talk show, of course, but some of the stuff that is displayed there, yeah, I don't think it's coming from the US. I think it's coming from somewhere else because some of the stuff is really shocking, and it's fake news, I guess. Ron, just like you commented on what our friend Chris Exline was talking about in Ukraine the other day, with the Russians helping Iran and you commented against that, and that was really interesting to me. I did not further publicize that, by the way. So if you would like to discuss any of that, I welcome you to use this platform. But some videos that I've seen the past week on YouTube are actually really alarming, showing drones hitting that huge tower in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and some towers in Tel Aviv. I don't know whether it's real or not, but it's really scary. What do you think, Ron?
And Ed, I am very cautious of news. And is it fake news? Is it AI? I'm very cautious of that. I personally do not propagate anything that I see. That's just me. I don't criticize anyone who does, but I don't propagate anything that I see because I quite honestly don't know what is fake news. Yeah, I know various people have various sources. They say I can 100% trust whatever source as being valid news. And I'm just skeptical enough that I don't know. And so I would hope that we in the United States can develop relationships with our NATO allies and others that we can have a very peaceful but relatively quick solution to this situation. It's unfortunate if Russia is providing intelligence to Iran. I hope that is not the case, but whatever is happening, I have belief in faith in our intelligence, in our teamwork, that we will be able to see through, see into virtually everything that's happening. Ed, I may have a false hope, but I just don't think so. That's where I am.
Yeah. If you'd like to add anything about what you and Chris Exline were dialoguing about the situation in Ukraine this past week, feel free to. Ken, what do you think of all this? Should we change this topic or go a little deeper?
Whatever, Ed, you're the moderator. Whatever you'd like to do with this. I'm just thinking, I think all of us grew up in the Walter Cronkite era,
Yeah.
where he was listed as the most trusted person in America, and that was the news. News was news. I look at news today as it's not news; it's opinions, and just that's what it is. You're getting different opinions, different viewpoints, and truth is unfortunately a variable. What is really happening? What's going on behind all this? What is going on with the decision making? And if you expose yourself to various, if you will, news or opinion outlets, you'll see that a story can be quite different as to what happened in various situations. So I take it as that, and try to keep an open mind, try to understand where others are coming from, where they're getting information, and not locking in. It's not all black and white. It's shades of gray. And if we lock in and people are rigidly believing to one set of opinions on what's happening out there, it can be destructive. And we see that in the workplace. To bring it back to that topic of employees feeling very, very differently about what's happening politically in America and in the world, and even in terms of the wars that are going on, and at least to be sensitive to that, to allow people to have their various opinions, but not to thrust them onto others or to treat others differently because they have different views and opinions and thoughts about what's happening, but rather to keep the dialogue open and, if you will, to keep it psychologically safe, where we can disagree about what's happening and not create problems out of that.
Ron, I'd like you to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go
No, that's
right
right.
ahead.
Ken, to advance what you're saying, in the context of audio and video recordings, we don't know. We on the listening side don't know how much of whatever's been recorded, audio or video, has been edited. To what degree? We know that any person, any journalist can in fact edit those recordings to have that message project whatever their bias might be. We know that can, and in fact is happening. It's been proven many times. And so with that as a source, I know I'm very skeptical of any recording that I may see or hear that I because I was not actually there to view it myself. I don't know how much that recorded may have been edited to achieve some biased viewpoint.
So I'm just going to say that I believe what I heard when the report was that there's Russian submarines shadowing the American Armada, which is across the seas right there, and the Chinese have sent one of their huge aircraft carriers. The Chinese have interest. They get the oil from Iran. They need it. Japan, whose president, the new president, is in Washington today with meetings with President Trump. First time, I think, I'm not sure. All-day meetings going on. They get oil from Iran and the Middle East. So everybody's impacted by this, that's for sure. Company culture, once again, the Cooper culture is all about this. Cooper Culture, thecooperculture.com is the site where you can go get deeper info. So the question is, how can company culture, Ken, I'd like you to address this too. How can your company culture bring people together now, not apart, pulling people together now, not driving them apart? I asked Gemini this a few minutes ago before the show started. So they spit out everything that we already know. Communications, inclusivity, and values, stressing values, company values that are supposed to bring people together, help the customer. Ron?
And if we as leaders within our families, within our companies, focus on the mission, what is the mission? And as we keep that focus on the mission, we're saying that, okay, that becomes the primary topic. That's what we're about. Other topics become peripheral. Not to say they're not important, but they are peripheral based on the company's mission. Now, your welfare, Ed, your welfare, Ken, if you were one of my employees, yeah, that's very important to me. That's part of the mission centricity of our company culture. I want to know what is concerning you about outside events in the context of if I can project to you my compassion to care for you, and I know that you're concerned about, that is going to all contribute in a positive way to the mission culture or the mission centric nature of our company. But I want you to know that I care about you. And yes, if you have concerns about things that are happening outside, external, that could affect your performance, I want you to know I care enough about that to talk. I want you to feel free that you can bring up any topic of any sort you want, because we have a psychologically safe culture in which we do that. And as you can feel free to bring up these kind of topics, you will have the confidence that, yes, I know I can talk to this. I know my leader cares enough about and for me that we can talk our way through this. That, yes, this may be a very tense moment in my life, but I know I have the backing, the support of the leaders in my company. Ed, that's a lot of what the culture is about, and we as leaders must exude within our companies.
Ken, please comment.
Yeah, I know underlying the Cooper culture, I can tell you one key word that ties into what we're talking about, and that word is respect. That we have respect for our employees as individuals, even if we personally might disagree with some of their philosophy or thoughts or views, but to treat them respectfully, to listen to them, to do more than talk about respect, but to show it in our behavior and to make that a core aspect of what's accepted and expected within the organization. It opens the door to just the kind of environment that is psychologically safe, that I'm truly respected as an individual. We don't have to disagree on everything. My grandmother used to say, what a boring world it would be if we all agreed on everything. That's okay. That's part of what makes us interesting and makes us people. We're not all just going to go in lockstep and agree on every item. And that would be a very scary organization to be in. That's why saying, look, we're here. We have different opinions. We have a mission. We have our goals. We have objectives. And everyone's thoughts are treated respectfully. We will listen to what others, we want everyone to listen to others. And if you disagree, to do so respectfully and in a humane and open way, and not to use the disparaging kinds of comments and distrust and disrespect that are easily set up for people to fall into. That's not part of a respectful culture.
And Ken, I'll advance again what you're just saying, that as we project values within our families, our companies, and one of those values is, as you said, respect. Another value is trust. Another value is I will never denigrate your personal character. I am not anti-you. We can vehemently disagree on any number of topics, but I'll never denigrate your character. I'll never denigrate your background because of whatever it is that, but I'm interested in learning from your perspective and so forth. We can, in fact, grow together if we choose to do that in a mission-centric family, in a mission-centric company. And that may sound very lofty, those words, but in other words, what are we about? What does this family represent? What is a branding statement? Different terms for the same thing. That this company, this family, we represent a unified team. That's really what we're about. And as we are able to come together as a unified team, we can do so again. I'm repeating myself a little bit. We can separate mission-centric topics from peripheral topics. And yes, everything happening geopolitically, yeah, it's important, but it's peripheral to what we're about within our company or family. That our core being as a family, we have to function as a team. We have to know each other very well. We have, as Ken, you said so eloquently, that we have to respect each other. That is a part of having a core team that functions extremely well.
So let's begin to sum up. We're not ending this right now. We got plenty of time. Or we can end it if you guys want to stop it. My background, going back a long time, has been employee mobility. In other words, sending people out on assignment and build the talent development. And of course, cross borders too, cross cultures. But now multinational companies, they've been racing to get people out of the war zone, bringing them home. Disruption, threats. And the traditional way of sending people out on assignment, cross-border, what I'm getting just this morning is bulletins and I have to say companies are not broadcasting this currently. They're afraid of being of kidnappings and of talent and family overseas, particularly in Dubai and throughout that whole area right now. Right now. And so the rise of this, Zoom, whatever is similar. This is safe. I'm here with you in Maryland and with you in LA, and I'm in San Diego. We don't need to be in person if we're in danger or at risk. So companies who have for years generated international assignments and supported them have just said, stop. Too risky. Not only with all the BS connected with tax and immigration and local politics impacting who's coming in to take someone else's job potentially. It's not just US, that same thing is going on all over Europe right now. And the big guys, the big companies are saying, I'm done with this. Do it remote and do it right. Get it done. Fascinating times right now because companies have invested millions in international talent development. So with that in mind, I also want to make a bit of an announcement. Our friend, Annette Dernick in Cologne, Germany, who's been on this program many times, introduced me to a friend and mentor in Berlin, a guy who's third generation business owner, family business, extremely well established. Produced a training program at Harvard in Boston, and he's a venture capitalist also. And so Annette informed him about me and the program and how it generates conversation in a safe place. He took an immediate interest. I sent him some of the shows that you both have been on as samples prior to him saying, let's talk. And so we had that conversation the other day on Monday morning. And we're going to have more. And he'll be joining us in the future on some of these programs. He wants to have a good look at what I'm doing. No promises. But one of the ideas that he said I ought to do after looking at some of the programs that we've done, including some of yours, Ron, and some of yours, Ken, and programs we did with Paul Falcone and Stephen Howard and others, Joseph McGuire in Dublin. And I told him the story. He wanted to know the story of how I started the whole thing in California Bound in 1980. And then I sent him that article that was published by the London publisher about the role of people care, relocation administration, and managing people who are on international assignment or cross-border assignment of any kind, and how it ties in with foreign direct investment, investing in communities to build land, whether it's data centers or whatever. And then the FDI people meeting with and setting deals up with local economic development people, and the role of the realtor, the relocation administrator, and the service provider to make the family whole and get the family productive fast and into housing. That article has caught his eye, as he called it, brilliant. And so there's a future that's developing for me. Here I am, 80 years old. So it's really interesting. But he says what you have to do is create that magic that you did in 1980. Don't go inventing anything else, just recreate that. And he advised me to take the author route and the mastermind route, combining authors and masterminds into a series of these kinds of shows. Not 20 people on the screen, that doesn't work, but small groups or even one-on-ones. And so I made a list of 18, and you're both on it, of people who I want to get involved with and be involved into a series of topics such as the one we're having right now, and just expand on it. Because these will be very helpful to the other people out there who will receive this. So some of the people, in addition to you two guys, are Paul Falcone, Hampton Dowling, Andrea in Bucharest, Romania, Annette in Cologne, Heather in London, a business psychologist, Yvonne Quay from the World Bank. She's now living in Geneva. Andrew Ellerman in London. He's the guy who climbed Mount Everest twice and started to swim the English Channel. So Andrew Woods, who featured me a long time ago in the Audacious Ask book that he wrote about people who are entrepreneurs doing things. I was not the only one. There are several people in that book. Anyway, he's going to be involved. And Adrian Fuentes in Mexico City, who's written 4 books about women coming into power positions in Mexico, including the new president. Philip Berry, this guy himself, Frank Beckman. Johanna Lennartson in Stockholm, who's become a new client of mine. Mika Cross, who you guys have met in the past from Washington, D.C., former intelligence officer in the Army. And Joseph McGuire. So that's 17 and a couple of more pending. I think that's a wonderful idea that this guy has urged me to do, and I'm going to start doing it. So please be involved. I'm not going to ask for money from you. You want to throw it at me, I'll take it, of course. But because of your strengths and because of the capability that together we have developed in this media, he says, find sponsors who want to associate with you. And that's the same idea that I did 40 years ago with California Bound. It says, wake up, just take what you've already done. Don't invent the wheel again. Just make the wheel better. What do you think, Ron?
I think it's a great idea. Just
Okay.
very briefly, Ed, two thoughts came to mind. Marty and I interviewed Andrew Elliman Tuesday this week. I met him
Oh,
through
oh, great,
LinkedIn, and
great.
we did a podcast with him. What I'm just astounded.
Exciting.
I'm astounded at what he has in mind coming up to do to prove to others mental health and so forth. I am absolutely flabbergasted at I didn't even know if people could think of things that he was thinking of. I am totally intrigued with that. But Ed, in the context of your earlier start, relocation, I will tell you one of the topics that a person would necessarily need to be well versed in if you're going to relocate people or be involved in that. To what location? You have to be very knowledgeable of the environment to which they would be entering, which then what might make them a target for something. And you are well versed in the welfare of the people that you are helping to relocate. That to me is all a part of a good leader and all a part of a culture of a company that even though we are relocating, maybe the majority of your company is remote, but it's just as if you are right there together because those people within your sphere of influence know you're compassionately caring about them as if you were right there, as if they were right there within view of you. But Ed, I think this, from my perspective, I think that's you're discussing a great opportunity.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Ron on this. I certainly like the individuals you named are certainly just a great group. I've had the pleasure of getting to know a good number of them through your broadcasts, and extremely impressive, all right, and interesting, varying perspectives. So it's not all going to be the same type of information at all. The backgrounds, the philosophies, the approaches are different and they're deep, which I think is absolutely terrific. And I like the idea of keeping it small. You don't want these to be a town hall where the screen fills up and it looks like, oh my goodness, this is just a mass of people there. But rather to have the exchange, the varying opinions, the different views, and get a bona fide conversation going on. And it really does advance the topic. And frankly, the insights that are shared by your guests can trigger new thoughts by other guests who are on the show. So I think it's terrific to keep that size down and keep the dialogue as open as you always have. You encourage that, you support it, and you bring it out. And I think that's one of your real excellent skills.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So I'd like to, I'm not a preacher, but I think we need to think about praying for safety for the American troops out there because I think they're up against the devil. And I never thought I'd ever say that on broadcast, but this is scary times. And Ron, the strength that you talk about and display really needed right now.
Ed, I want to give, I think you know the confidence having your experience with the military, but for any listeners who have not been involved with the military, I would like to impress on your listeners the training we go through. We are constantly training in the military. There's rarely a day that goes by that we're not in some form of training. And a part of that training is critical thinking. We're always thinking ahead. What if? And many of us in the military are very, very confident in our role in the military. One reason that gives me belief that to your question, Ed, early on, that we in the military are serve in those positions because we believe we are called to function in that position. Therefore, we don't need to forcibly bring people into the military. When you do that, you're bringing in all kinds. No, we want those who believe they are called to function in a military position, whether it's the minimum number or whether it's for a career. But we want those who are dedicated to the military mission, and that's what the all volunteer force is all about. Again, Ed, I want to give you and your listeners as much confidence as I can project that we in the military are very confident in what we do, our mission. We are a unified team, and together we will accomplish exactly what needs to be done. Marty and I sincerely resonate with you praying for our military. And yes, we are not,
We've
we're
lost
not,
you. Okay, go ahead. We hear you.
yeah, we are not so confident in our confidence that we will never experience adversity. But I will tell you with confidence, we have the utmost confidence. We will go into the target area. We will return from the target area. We're very confident, not arrogant, but we're very confident through our training, through our teamwork, that we are a highly functioning team and we will be winners in the process. Ed, that may sound arrogant to some people, but I hope that is more so a vote of confidence to those in your audience.
Thank you very much. Ken, would you like to sum up?
In terms of what Ron just said, I think my one word comment on that is wow. You just inspire confidence in those around you. And people, instead of talking generally about the military, but here you were in the cockpit, you've spent all those years doing these amazing feats within the military. And when you talk and articulate, as you just have, about all that's going on and what the military, if you will, mindset is in approaching this, I think it's very inspirational, it's very informative, and I think this has made, just your words here have made me feel better, literally making me feel better about what's going on over there. I think you're truly an inspiration, and I think the more that your message is out there about what you just said, I think it's very important in these times because people don't know who to listen to, what's going on, what can we believe, what's happening. And here it is from a person who's been there and is still quite involved, certainly psychologically, in what's happening in this world and with the military. And I think it's very important for the rest of us to hear your thoughts on this. I think it's been very informative and educational. So thank you.
Let's go back, if we
thank you,
can,
Ken.
to 52. I was 7 years old at that then, but and watching cowboy shows on TV. But General Eisenhower ran for president as a Republican and won landslide. And because they just trusted the military guy. He was old already at that time, but I just see that in you, Ron, and I don't mean to embarrass you at all. It's just the voice of smart, smart and strength, trust. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm certainly not here to garner any particular praise, anything like that. But I'll just say that we in the military, I'm repeating myself, are trained all the time. We do that. That is a part of who we are, what we're about. That training is a part of our teamwork. We function very well as a team. And I believe a lot of that is because we're mission oriented. What is the mission that my role as a team member contributes to? As we know exactly what our role is, I don't feel diminished in whatever role I have in that. I just know I'm a part of the team, that if I don't do my part of this, it's possible the overall mission may fail. And so to some degree, those in the cockpit are to use a sports analogy, yep, we're the ones who carried the ball over the goal line, so to speak, and we get credit for that. But I would hope that we never lose sight of the fact that there are thousands of maintenance people who made it possible for that aircraft to function, to get in and out. We have thousands of people who were involved in the communication that made it possible that we can speak with each other. There are others who made it possible to provide the meal support that we needed to do and function and so forth and so on. Ed and Ken, I'm describing to you the total teamwork that the military has. And I have said in the past, and I'll continue to emphasize, I believe there are three vocations that have teamwork down to a fine art, and that is first responders, law enforcement, and military. In some cases, literally, our lives depend on how well we function together. But as we in business executives can exude, I've used that term frequently, but as we project, it's in our voice, that as we through our voice can project our confidence in Ken, you and Ed and so forth, that it becomes a part of the organization that run, and others leaders, you speak it. Therefore, I want to do it. I respect you because you first respect me, to use Ken's expression. When that becomes a part of the culture, we're functioning as a well-performing team, and we come out with a confidence that, yes, we will. And that's a part of the confidence I want to project as a company leader. That's a part of the confidence I want to train other leaders to project. And we're in the process of speaking very resolutely. I want to also project the fact that we are very compassionate about you as a person, your personality, your family, what you have going on in your life, because that's all a part of the total mission.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being involved. Please come back, and we'll be announcing stuff in coming days. Yeah. Thank you.
Ed and Ken, thank you so much.
Thanks right back to you. And Ed, thank you as well. Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Later today, I'll have these programs ready for public viewing. But I think this is a great show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Be well, guys.